Today we're going to cover 5 important things that you need to know about raising orchids. We'll talk about watering them, the right light, feeding them, grooming them, and repotting them. Let's take a look at my orchids right now, and I'll talk about the stage of growth that they are at. This little guy is one that I bought for about $5 in a local grocery store. And quite frankly, I didn't think it was going to live very long. I thought for $5, who can go wrong? It had pretty purple flowers on it that lasted for 3 months. 3 months of flowers for $5. That's what I'm talking about in terms of getting a lot of bang for your buck. Well, this is a very healthy orchid plant and it's growing to beat the band. I'm going to take it out of the pot so you can see. They come usually within a pot and then a little plastic pot that holds the orchid and the growing medium. And here you can see these things that are growing outside of the pot, and those are new roots. This shows that this is a very healthy plant. It's reaching for air. Orchids are air plants, and this orchid is doing very well. This orchid has just dropped all of its flowers. Here is the stalk that the flowers were on, and it is ready for some grooming. It's also not doing very well. You can see that the leaves on this orchid are getting, they look leathery. They don't look vibrant. It doesn't look as healthy as I would like it to look. So we'll talk about that a little later on. This orchid is going to drop its leaves. It also is a healthy plant. You can see all of the roots that are growing out of the base. This orchid, and this orchid, each just started to bloom with new flowers. And this one has some pods on it. This one as well has pods on it. So you can see that these orchids are giving back now. They have, this one is in its 2nd year. This one is also in its 2nd year. And this one, I believe, is in its 3rd year. Let's talk about grooming. Grooming orchids does not take a lot of time. There's really not a lot that you have to do. But let's talk about the things that you do have to do. The first thing is, once the flowers have been spent, it's time for you to cut the stalk. So in this case, this is the orchid that I showed you that had just dropped all of its leaves. I sometimes use twine to train the orchid stalk up a stake like this. I also use ribbons like you see here, and I also use clips, like they're little tiny clips like you would put in your hair, and those are really great. So whatever you like to use, you can use. So in this case, I'm just going to take normal kitchen shears, and I'm going to snip this near the base, take the stalk completely off. And then this orchid, I told you, does not look all that healthy, and I believe that it's a candidate for repotting. So we'll talk about that in a little bit when we talk about repotting. When your orchid is losing its blooms, you'll find that they will wither and they'll just drop right off. So you'll go around and you will pull those off and discard those as they drop. You can also use these fresh orchids in drinks. They make really pretty embellishments to a cocktail or a nice icy glass of lemonade for a special occasion or a special drink. So that's about it. Training your orchid stalks to go up a stake As you can see in this case, this one was quite long, and so I was training this one to loop over and make an arch. Here we go. To make an arch. It's really pretty. Look at the beautiful flowers on there. Love this one. Love, 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 love. And then in other cases, you'll just take your stalk and train it right up the stake like this one, having a little bit of the flower hang over. Very easy to groom your orchids. Now let's talk about watering and feeding your orchids. I water my orchids once a week, and I use the ice cube method for doing that. I'll just get a bowl filled with ice cubes, and then I go around to my orchid plants and I place the ice cubes at the base of the plant. Usually 3 or 4 ice cubes, depending on the size of the orchid. And that's all there is to it. So each of the orchids will get 3 or 4 ice cubes once a week. That's except for this little guy. This one I've been taking out of the pot and then just running it under the water from my kitchen tap, and then making sure that the water all drains out. You do not want your orchids to be soaking wet, and you do not want them sitting in water. Also, each one of the orchids periodically, maybe once every 6 weeks, I will take into the kitchen and run the water through the base of the plant. So that's it. It's really easy to water them. The next thing that I do is I use a commercially available orchid mist, and I just do 3 or 4 sprays along the base of the plant, just like this. And I do that when I water. So once a week they get 3 or 4 sprays of the mist. They get the ice cubes for watering, and that's all there is to it. So finally, let's talk about repotting. This plant that I said to you wasn't doing particularly well, that I'm going to look at repotting, it just means that you're going to take the plant out of the medium that it's in, and you'll need to buy new orchid planting medium, which is basically bark, and it will just come in a bag that says orchid potting medium. And so then I'm going to take this out of this plant, out of this pot, and replace all of the medium just very loosely around the roots. And that should do it. Water it as I always have, feed it as I always have. It's really easy to repot an orchid, and it's really easy to take care of orchids. The last important thing for us to talk about in raising orchids today is lighting. Orchids like to be in bright but diffused light. So I keep them in a bright room away from direct rays of the sun. Except for this plant. I wanted to show you what can happen when you put your plant in direct sunlight. So I actually moved this plant out here to this sun porch a while ago, and it caught too much light, and you can see how the sun has burnt the leaf there. You do not want that to happen. So just find a sunny spot for your orchid plants and leave them there. Now what will happen when these plants go into bloom like this is that I actually have great fun moving my orchids around the house to wherever I want them to be. Sometimes they'll be beside the kitchen sink, sometimes they'll be in a bedroom, sometimes they're in my family room, they might even find themselves in a bathroom. They do very well once they're in bloom pretty much anywhere that you want them to be, just as long as it's not dark. While they are growing, and that means once your flowers are spent and you've taken the stalk and cut it off, you're going to be caring for a flowerless orchid plant for probably, 6 months of the year, 6 to 7 months of the year. Then you'll start to see the stalk start to grow, and you'll start training it up your stake. And then it'll probably take a month or two for it to get to the blooming stage. And then once it starts to bloom, I'm going to be enjoying these blooms on these orchids for 3 months. You can't beat that. These orchids cost between $15 and $20 in the grocery store or at your local home store. And you'll have them year after year, giving you all this beauty for just a little bit of money. So go out today and buy yourself an orchid. Enjoy the beautiful blooms for 3 months, and then take care of it, and it will give back to you again.